Tonight on Cosmic Cantina, we hike deep into the woods to hunt for the predator. Or is it hunting us? Many reports describing beings that use some kind of cloaking technology to turn invisible and move through the forest to track their prey. Are they our forest friends, or could they be looking to hunt the most dangerous game of all? Humans. Zip up your tent and don't invite that Bigfoot inside. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golombeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight I'm on recovery from Cabo. I'm drinking a kombucha. No alcohol tonight.
Well, don't worry.
Sometimes
I will make it up for you.
I think I made it up for everybody in the last 4 days. But you go. Tell us, Josh, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm a one beer man now, and that beer is Ghostfish. I'm all in. My love is public. It's real. I may or may not have already messaged them on Instagram. You know, I'm not looking for sponsorship. I'm not even looking for free beer. I'm just looking for some love. You know, I just love Ghostfish. They might hate the paranormal, but if it's called Ghostfish, I think they might like us. We'll find out.
I love that you're making it up for the fact that I'm not drinking by having one beer. It's cute.
Oh, it's
cute.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, come on, Australian. You got 5 shots of whiskey lined up. What's going on?
Oh, boy. Yeah, so I am drinking whiskey. Well, so here's the thing. I'm drinking this stuff. I like the label. It was called Bird Dog Whiskey. Bird Dog. Because I have a bird dog. And I tried it, and there's an odd sort of aftertaste to it, and I looked it up. And apparently it's a whiskey-based liqueur. I could not be more disappointed. I am very upset.
Whoa.
So
I know we have a big show ahead of us, but what does that mean? It's just
I don't know, but it does not taste correct. I think on the bottle, its little catchphrase was, well, I mean, it gets the job done. So
that sounds like a winner.
Yeah. So, I mean... I could feel it getting me tipsy, but at the same time, I'm not having a good time here, guys. Anyway.
That's
Karen,
all right.
What are we doing?
I'll pick up the sober train for you. Well, we're talking about things that are there but you can't quite see, and that might happen if you keep drinking that whiskey liqueur.
Ugh,
so,
yeah.
Let's dive into it. I'm going to start with a Fox News article. Woo!
All right.
Aliens. This is the title of it. Aliens may exist in ways we can't fathom, which is why we haven't found them, scientists suggest. This was published this year in July. I guess a group of researchers from the University of Cádiz in Spain suggested in a report published in the journal Acta Astronautica. I hope I said that right. Our traditional concept of space is limited by our brain, and we may have the signs above and be unable to see them. So here's what the experiment was. This is how they came to some conclusions, which I'll get to in a second. The research team used a classic psychological experiment to provide a possible explanation as to why we humans have not found any indication of extraterrestrial life. The theory hinges on the idea of inattention blindness, which suggests that we don't see what we aren't looking for. Countless teachers and professors have used a video to illustrate exactly how this phenomenon works. Okay. The experiment was originally done in 1999, and they asked participants to watch the video and keep a silent count of the number of passes made by people in white shirts. They showed the video to 137 participants at Harvard University. The experiment went on to become one of the best known in psychology because of the surprising outcome. So the experiment is called the Invisible Gorilla.
Ooh.
Because a person in a gorilla suit spends 9 seconds on screen. They stroll through the video frame, at one point face the camera, thump their chest, and then they leave. But half of the people who watched this video in the original experiment didn't see the gorilla at all. It was like it was invisible. The The experiment revealed that human psychology and perception aren't as foolproof as many of us would like to believe. Most people miss a lot of what's going on around them as they try to filter and process the incredible amounts of perceptual information being fed to their brains throughout the day. So only 45 out of the total 137 participants noticed the gorilla in the photo or in the video. They believe that their findings and those of the invisible gorilla experiment point to the possibility that life beyond Earth could very well exist in a way that humans are not oriented to perceive or understand. Solely searching for civilizations populated other planets or solar systems may limit our ability to conceive and potentially locate interdimensional capable civilizations. This is what the research team has gleaned from this research. And this just happened in July. They just published this in July this year, 2020. So they're basically saying that, like, we have an understanding of possible other life, but we just cannot perceive or understand an interdimensional entity. And this is the way that they proved it. That even in plain sight, when there's something that's odd to our visual cortex, we cannot register it because we're just too busy filtering out survival mode and looking for what we're looking for. So
is the idea that these entities are capitalizing on that weakness we have, or like are they doing that on purpose, or is it just we just not seeing them?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, if you could be invisible, wouldn't you just walk around and do a whole bunch of shit?
Oh man, the shit I would get up to if I was invisible.
But I also think, we've talked about this. We have had so many podcasts where we talk about beings from some kind of other dimension trying to get in touch with us, and it's difficult. Whether it's a ghost or it's an entity or it's an alien or whatever, they have to provide a lot of energy just to prove to you that that they're there, right? So what they're saying is that they could be walking among us right now, and we wouldn't even notice it. We just would. It's like a glitch in a matrix. We just wouldn't even register it.
So they could be trying to get hold of us, but we're just not listening. I mean, I'm a busy guy. I don't often return calls, and so I understand that.
Busy guy. Yeah, I mean that's what basically they're saying. But I mean, I know that we're going to talk about these stories beforehand, but I mean, just think of like what if there's a lot of like predator beings walking around, like from the movie,
Holy
making
shit.
those weird noises.
No, thank you.
Well, I think what you're saying could be true. We can't perceive these interdimensional entities. They may be around us. But I think the predator being phenomenon might be something different. It might be a being that's choosing to be camouflaged and to mess with you on purpose. Maybe it's interdimensional of nature, but I think it wants to be seen. But I did a lot of research last night, and I'm so fired up to share it.
Well, as I was pitching on Instagram, I wanted to talk about this story that I think might lend some kind of creation of the Predator movies. This happened in 1970, I believe, with a guy named Clifford Stone, who, if you're in this space, you might have heard of this guy.
My boy Cliff. I love Cliff. I love myself some Clifford Stone. Crashed alien retrieval. That's what he's most famous for.
That is what he's famous for. And so one of his jobs, late 60s, early 70s in Vietnam, was to investigate some UFO stuff that was happening in Vietnam. I mean, he talks about a lot of stuff that happened in the States. In fact, this guy has, like, boxes of files in his basement that he just carts around. I mean, he's, like... he's insane. Like, real government files that he's been able to keep. So he's a fascinating dude. So there's one story that he talks about. He went to retrieve a B-52 bomber that had crashed. He talks about it being, like, a small B-52. I don't... Like, they're either big or, I mean, maybe it's a different plane, I'm not sure. But it crashes. It's an unusual crash because it just kind of lands. Oh. It obviously got hit, but then it didn't, like, take down all the trees. It just kind of, like, looked like it got set there, which was a bit strange. All the personnel were dead when they found the crashed B-52. They had died from the shrapnel from whatever hit the B-52 when it was crashing. And they looked around the site and they just couldn't figure out like how it just like delicately landed. So he starts hearing noises in the bushes. He doesn't see anything. And he sees like a little gray. He talks about how he sees these little grays, and how they, they're in the middle of the jungle. So the native people were talking about little people that live there. And so he starts shooting, and then he sees this kind of like predator being like hang from the
classic
trees.
American.
Yeah.
Just shoot it. Just shoot it.
I think in one of his transcripts I have, he said he yelled VC. VC! Viet Cong!
Oh, really?
Nope. Gray alien, sorry. But anyway, I'm getting to the part of the predator. So then he sees this like strange, kind of like invisible looking being kind of swing from the trees and kind of like escape into the woods. You know how it's kind of clear, so you kind of see through it, but you can see it moving. And he like freaked out, and they all freaked out. And so not only were they dealing with the grays, but they were dealing with this like weird invisible being that was like in the jungle. They're in the middle of nowhere, and they have a crashed aircraft that's been delicately like put right in the middle of the jungle.
Whoa.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, I had no idea that was based on a real event.
Well, I mean, this is before Predator. I just wondered if, like, the writers, obviously, the whole movie is considered fiction. However, I wondered
Wait, where'd you get that story, Melissa? That's really interesting. I feel like I've read all Clifford Stone's stories. That was a good one. I never heard that before. That's weird, because, like, what was the craft doing? Like, it must have been a UFO involved. There must have been something else involved they didn't say, because I think it put in the ground on purpose, and a bunch of aliens were hanging out. So, like, I'm surprised they didn't see, like, a craft nearby. Like, why was the predator being just whipping off into the jungle? Like, why didn't it get, where was it going? That's just, like, a super crazy story.
But why was the predator being with the grays, like the small grays? It's just weird.
That's just confusing,
Are they all friends?
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe the grays are, like, robots, and, like, whatever it is, like, a bigger alien with some sort of cloaking technology. I don't know.
Like Clifford Stone, I mean, just as a bit of a tangent, but Clifford Stone talks about the gray aliens a lot, and he has like a friendlier version of them, but they were definitely scared of whatever that other thing was, and nobody caught it. They just started shooting. So, and they quickly got out of there, so I just wanted to bring that up, that I thought that, like, I feel like these stories have been going on for a while, and they maybe have inspired the movie Predator that happened in Vietnam. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a lot like it, for sure.
Dope.
The visuals, at least.
Yeah.
That's a dope story.
All right. So, you got any invisible beings? Josh?
Do we ever?
Oh, man. This is like, I didn't realize I was so into this. This has got me really excited. I studied and researched so much that I scared myself and, like, had a hard time falling asleep the last 2 nights, because something kind of happened that blew my mind. My mom told me a story when she was younger in the late 60s. I'm from this place, for new listeners, in Rhode Island called Little Compton. That's just like this quintessential New England town on the coast with very little people in it. And one night my mother woke up and described hearing this crazy, ethereal, otherworldly, lionish roar coming outside, and something big like moving across the yard. And this is rural Rhode Island. It's just like a farmhouse. It's dark, it's night, and there's no one around. She runs downstairs, and my grandfather was awake and on the porch. And then my uncle came home in a car, and they were all on the porch staring at the woods, and something like went into the woods, but they couldn't see it. Now, they didn't really describe what, like, it was, they didn't say it was invisible, but they just couldn't see it. And the woods, like, moved, and it was gone. And my mom asked, like, did they see anything? They said, no, I don't know what that was. So that was just a random story. And we're like, okay, Mom, that's a fun story about a random haunting scream you heard in the middle of the night. But, like, could have just been, like, an animal, like, suffering or something.
Were you drunk?
Yeah. Were you drinking? I think she was, like, 13. Maybe. It was the 60s. They didn't care back then.
It was just some New Jersey guy.
Hey! The guy from Jersey! But then I read this book really quick on Kindle called Predator in the Woods. Monstrous creatures, and I'm just going to read the description of the first thing. This is why I freaked out the other night, because I was like, oh my god, like, that's exactly what my mom described. So now I'm wondering if my mom saw a cloaked predator being in the forest, just like people talk about. So this is what she said. This is what he said. Russ Chastain said, there's no location to this other than he was a hunter and he was out. This is what he described the cry. Basically, he was hunting, and then suddenly something was behind him and screamed at him. He said it was the most primal cries I've ever heard. It seemed part human, part animal, and part spirit, and completely evil. And my mom did go out of her way to say that whatever it was